All right, hello guys. Very sorry if you were waiting on this originally. If you're watching the replay, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. This is what I'm going to be doing though. I'm going to jump us right into the video. If you have any questions as we're going along, feel free to ask, but I don't want to waste any more time for this. This was all, I'm not Jenna, by the way, either. I'm rushing around. This was all supposed to be one continuous stream, so I'm extremely sorry that this did not work out the way it was supposed to. And I'm glad, I'm actually kind of shocked by how many people are still on. We're not going to do any formalities. We're going to jump right into this. If you have questions as we go along, please feel free to ask. And let me get this going for you guys. Got to squint a little bit to find it, though. Okay, there we go. Trainee study hour. Here we go.
But right now it is, but or barely into the afternoon for the East Coast people. Hi, Em. All right, just give me one more second. Everybody entered in. All right, let's get started, everybody. Today, Elizabeth will not be here, so we are joined by our amazing mentor, Dustin. Dustin, thank you for coming on today. Everybody gets excited when Dustin joins us for study hour and his wealth of knowledge. We should be joined by Reed later today, later on in this call. But right now, it is me and Dustin here to answer your questions. Who is visiting for the first time? Carla, your first time?
It is my first time, yes, on the study hour.
Welcome in. Where are you at in the course?
I'm in module 7. I should be much further along. So that's why I'm hopping on here, seeing I probably should watch the new trainee again. I started a business about the same time that I started this. And so the business took off, thankfully. But now I'm just trying to play catch up and figure out where I'm all at and everything. Because all my labs have come, but I haven't gotten all of them done and turned back in, except for the MRT.
Well, you'll get there. I don't like to say we should be further along than where we're at because we're always exactly where we need to be in the course. But were you saying the new trainee orientation call you might want to go visit?
Yeah, I might want to go visit that again. I did that at the beginning and got a lot of momentum from that. And so it may be something that would behoove me to just kind of get my brain reoriented again for
Guide
what
it.
I need to
You
do.
know, that's always an option, but also we have the office hours with me and Renee once a month. That would probably be the best bet for you. You could do both, but the office hours for those of you who haven't been, that's a open drop-in. It's kind of like a in a college setting, you have office hours with professors or staff, and you just kind of drop in, ask a question, and mosey on. It's not a training call. There's no educational component. Sometimes trainees are popping in to get more of an orientation on how to get the momentum back. Sometimes trainees come in because they need a virtual hug or a pat on the back or a you got this kind of thing. So I would recommend to attend the next office hours we have.
Perfect. Thank you for that tip.
Of course, and welcome to Study Hour. So for those of you who are joining for the first time, Study Hour is a broad range Q&A where we get to ask any course concept related questions. We do try to stay away from personal health questions. They do come up from time to time, especially if they're something that could benefit the whole class, so to speak. So we do ask that you limit your rounds to 2 questions each, and then if we don't have any hands up, we can come back and ask more questions. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. Who has the first question? And while we wait on that, we who went to the Hicks conference last week? Em, you went? Em, would you like to unmute yourself and share your experience to anyone else who's planning to go next year?
Sure, I'm sure you guys aren't sick of hearing from me yet. It It was so great. What is so great about Hicks is meeting all of our friends that we get to meet on here. That's probably my favorite part. Especially this year was so great because I went last year as a brand new student and I was like, what am I doing? This is so over my head. I don't know anyone. But this year, because we've, all been together, it was so fun to meet everyone and to just network and get to talk to all the different vendors and get to geek out with Brendan and, meet Elizabeth. Like, it's just so great to be able to meet everybody. And Reed and Ray Wynn's home was so beautiful. It was so amazing that they put that on for us. And then for those that didn't hear, the best news was we got to meet our cute little pregnant Elizabeth, who was part of our case study group. Her baby waited. So she seriously came to Reed's house and then went into labor the next day. So it
Oh,
was really exciting for us that we were able to like get to meet her after spending so much time together. And then her baby came while we were all in San Diego holding that space. So that was really, really cool. But yeah,
that's
it's so worth it. It's so great to get together and meet everybody and get to say hi to Reed at his beautiful house. And I highly recommend it.
wonderful. Thanks for sharing, Em. I enjoyed seeing all of the pictures of everyone because, I haven't met everybody that works at FDN. FDN has such a huge team, but it was interesting seeing everybody from above the shoulders or below the shoulders, like seeing them in pictures and stuff. So that's always fun to um, see everybody like that. The with this being an online course, we try everything that we can to make this as personal and connected as we can, but virtually nothing replaces actually seeing someone, hugging someone, shaking their hand, things like that. So I do see hands are up. I do want to welcome Reed. Welcome, Reed.
Hola.
Have you
Hi guys.
recovered from your week of partying?
I really didn't party. I just took care of business as usual. It was wonderful. It was probably the best conference we ever had. No doubt it was the best. And it's really the group, the life and heart and soul of FDN is its people, and that was really evident. And all the other vendors there, we have a vendors booth, and there's all the other vendors. There's the usual suspects, Quicksilver and Cellcore, and um, Biocanic had a booth there. I really love Biocanic. They it's their conference. We're just kind of commandeering and piggybacking on it in a really good way, in a cooperative way. And but every booth you go to, they love FDNs. Um, Brandy and Dawn specifically went from booth to booth to make sure we were just reaching out, and they all said, like, wow, FDNs are cool. So that's a good thing. Like I say, the heart and soul of FDN is its members. So good on you guys. You're trainees. You're about to sort of lift off, and we're going to do what we can to prepare you for that. I would say study hard, work hard. That can never be beat. You can never be beat if you can outwork everyone else. That's what that's how FDN was started. Nobody could outwork me, and I want to pass that along to you guys.
Thank you, Reed. I always like to say, you said it was one of the best conferences to date. I always like to say, once upon a time, how I found FDN is I was visiting San Diego, staying at the Hard Rock Hotel, and I heard there was a cool kids party going on, and it was an FDN conference happening at the Hard Rock, and
Oh
that's how
yeah,
I discovered FDN. So,
that was a really good one too. That was 2019. So you've been around a while then. Um, After that, we went to virtual conferences, FDN did. And then we decided just to piggyback on other people. So we have these really cool meetups. Anytime there's a conference we feel is worth going to, we can't make them all. There's some good ones. But next year we got two or three lined up where we hope to have more time. If I can get a speaker spot, or if we can get a speaker spot for for Elizabeth or Evan or, by the way, anyone else who wants to go speak for FDN, I will back you up 100%. Yeah, go do it. So yeah, thanks for the mention, and it worked out really good. It was, like everything else, we're doing webinars and things. We're just trying to stay on point, stay on the mission, and show up. Show up is half the battle, but show up a lot. We're again, if then it was founded on basically hard work. Um, and I think our tribe identifies with that. I don't know any snobs in FDN. Everyone here usually willing to put the shoulder to the wheel. Um, we come from that kind of people. I think, you know, I don't want to say working class, but people who know what work is and are willing to do it. So that's a wonderful thing. Ain't that right, Dustin?
That's right. You got it, man.
Dustin's out there in Colorado working hard, killing deer to feed his family for the winter.
Yep, that's right.
And collecting chicken eggs, right, Dustin?
That's it. Got that for sure too.
How many chickens do you have now?
You know what? Because we have 13 new babies, now I think
Well,
it's probably somewhere in the 30 range, 30 something. 'Cause
yeah, that'll feed the family. My grandfather at one time had 500 chickens, and obviously it was an egg farm. Yeah, but we got tired of chicken.
yeah, I bet they have rules that you can't have over 50, I think it is, in your homestead, that you have to turn into like a commercial
Yeah,
chicken raiser or whatever. So anyhow, we try to stay under that number, but we do both meat birds and laying hens.
yep.
Right. We have a lot of hands up, so we will start with, is it Tira? Am I saying that right? You're muted. Okay.
Yeah, Tira.
Okay, perfect. Tira, what is your question?
So I just have I have two questions. One is on gluten, and is there any flour product, like flour production process, that wouldn't be problematic in terms of gluten? I was at a farmer's market a couple weekends ago, and I was talking to my friend about gluten, and a booth overheard me, and they're like, actually our gluten doesn't do that because we produce it in X and X way, like organic, non-GMO, more in line with how they do it in Europe. So I'm just curious of if there are and I didn't know at that point. I was like, that's possible. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert in it. But I thought I would take it to the group and just see what else I could learn about it.
What's the question?
So
Yeah.
is there any way of producing bread or wheat that isn't problematic in terms of gluten? Like if the way that they produce, if it's organic, non-GMO, does that impact uh, our body's ability to digest it better?
Probably. Um, but if you have any kind of gluten sensitivity, it doesn't matter how pure it is. You're going to be sensitive. You're going to at least get something going on. It contributes to metabolic chaos. I know if I have it, I get stuffy, I fall asleep, I have real problems with it. Other people, not so much. I don't
Okay.
think it matters how good it is. Although there used to be, maybe you, Kurt, or Dustin have an opinion, or anyone that knows something. They used to say like einkorn wheat, it's European, and I think we found out that was bullshit. But um, you know, these rumors, persist.
Yeah, okay. And
Yeah. Do
I
do do the test and see if you have the gluten antibodies, gliadin antibodies. And at this Hicks conference, Tom O'Brien did a really good. He was the last sort of keynote speaker and did a really good job of talking about the molecular mimicry. And if you have a gluten sensitivity, it's not just gliadin, but all these other elements within wheat and that are also going to raise antibodies. So gliadin is just one. It's a protein in wheat, but there's other ways to be sensitive to wheat to add to your delight when you're out to dinner. Have to avoid the bread and butter, which I do now without even thinking. I mean, it's just it doesn't even tempt me anymore. But it used to. It used to be hard to not do the bread and butter. But it's once you just stay off it for 10 years and you'll see.
okay, and my understanding is correct that all gluten does contribute to leaky gut, even if you're not sensitive to it. Is that correct or no?
That's what Tom and a lot of his research says that humans aren't meant to digest it. You know, there was no processed food in our ancient ancestry. There was no agriculture. It was all hunter gatherer. And so those are the genes that we've all inherited. Um, that's I accept that. There's other stuff. Weston Price did some research. You know, he went around the world studying health. He was a dentist, so he looked a lot at people's mouths and teeth and he was good all around for overall health. And he says there's some tribes in, believe it or not, Scandinavia who lived on their horse food, oats and wheat and stuff, and said they were perfectly healthy, genetically adapted to some form of agriculture. But I would say that depending on your ancestry, most of us, not all of us, most of us are not yet adapted to um, the modern agricultural species of grain, basically grain. The five major, just remember the five major, just be able to do this: soy, oats, no, sorry, soy, wheat, uh, corn, dairy, and eggs. The five top things to avoid if you don't have any money for testing with is dairy, soy, corn, dairy, and eggs. Top, sensitivities.
Great. Thank you. And then my next question is just, it was probably faster, but do different foods provide structural versus functional protein? Or is that just, I couldn't quite get clear on that.
Between structural protein and what?
And functional protein? Like I
Yeah,
understand.
I think you're getting into the weeds.
Oh, okay.
There's, yeah, I wouldn't go that far. Protein, you can't say protein's protein because there's
Right.
protein from meat and there's protein from some, um, you know, plants and even in milk there's protein, there's fat, there's carbohydrates. So um, run the test that we have, and get clear on what you know. Just we test, don't guess. And the only thing I would note that in proteins is the high purine types would be not so good for uh, slow oxidizers. And is there trying to get the right ratio of protein, fat, and carbs. If you're throwing Hyperion type, and you can look that up, you're looking at your things like sardines and uh, dark fish and things like that. Hyperion organs for sure, Hyperion. And if you're a fast oxidizer, yeah, you'd probably be okay. But if you're a slow oxidizer, those kind of proteins I'd watch out for. But otherwise, just work on a ratio that works for you and for each one of your clients. They'll have to find the ratio. There's nothing more important than that anyway.
Okay, so they don't have to eat like different types of proteins to get structural versus functional.
I might be confused in what you mean by that, structural versus functional.
The structural being like what supports like the skin and like the building, and then the functional what supports the, I would have to go back and look.
Well, proteins used in the manufacture of all sorts of things in the body, like enzymes and chemical reactions, but it also helps build tissue and that sort of thing. But I think that that's a relatively new consideration, and um, I'd have to look into it, willing to look into it more. But as far as what you're eating goes, um, you have your plant-based protein and your animal-based proteins, and um, I think a combination is always a good thing. Um, that's what I think.
Okay. And yeah, it was the structural, does the skin, connective tissue, and muscle. And then the functional protein was the enzymes and some hormones, right?
Yeah.
Body
Yeah,
function.
we know what they mean, but we never called it that. And so I wouldn't um I think a combination is always a good thing.
Okay.
Is if you're doing the testing. So you take Jeremy Maleka, who owns Biocanic, and he's a co-founder and stuff. He was a horrible mess before he went on the metabolic typing diet and other FDN stuff. And his wife Jen is a is an FDN practitioner, and she took the course, and he was in bad shape, and he did FDN by the book. He's a pretty disciplined guy, and including the diet, and um, changed his life. And first FDN changed his wife, and then it changed his life. And wives tend to do that sometimes. But he founded Biocanic because of his love for FDN and trying to make it easier for FDN practitioners. Beginning with Jen, who was had test results all over the place and client histories all over the place and trying to always coordinate all that. And so he created Biocanic to help resolve that originally, and now it's really grown. It's doing amazing things outside of FDN in the field of medical records and all kinds of stuff. It's pretty much a genius platform, but it's easy to use. My wife teaches. She works part-time for Biocanic, and she's putting together some programs for FDN so they can get Biocanic and find it easier to use than you might be on your own. So anyway, it's really a life-changing thing, that protein fat carb ratio. Can't think of anything more important when you're eating.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here and for participating and for asking good questions. And like I said a minute ago, just showing up in life. Just show up. You know.
All right, Lauren, and then Kathy.
Hi, y'all. I have some exciting news. I have gotten through the course and I am now at my practicals. So super excited about that.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
yeah, yeah. And so I've run into the question, Reed, you probably would know the answer to this. because I have two homes. I have one in Rhode Island and one in Florida. And obviously, I should do the one in Florida because it's more flexible when shipping to clients, and I'll be able to have an Avexia account and all of that. But I do stay in Rhode Island half of the year. I do like a snowbird situation. And so I'm wondering what that would look like. Should I sign up with Florida address? And then what about when I want to ship or get done my own labs when I'm in Rhode Island? Like any suggestions around all that?
I would set up one as your home base, take your pick, and then the other would you sort of treat it like a client, like as if you're your own client. So you can still ship kits to Rhode Island, no problem, even if your home base is in Florida. It's not a huge big thing, Lauren. Um,
Oh, okay.
I have a home in California and a home in Florida, and um, Florida sucks. Just kidding.
Really? I love Florida.
You know what? I like parts of it, but compared to where I'm now, right now I'm in California,
Mhm.
and it's just so beautiful, and the air and we live out in the country a little bit, and uh, there's nothing like it in Florida. Florida's flat, humid, hot. There's bugs everywhere. We have to put a monkey cage over the pool. I call it the monkey cage.
Yeah.
They call it a lanai down there. So everyone has to have this screened in pool. You have to screen your pool in, the whole thing. It's a big giant
Yeah.
monkey cage. And if you go outside, you get bugs in your ears. They start, and it's just, there's no bugs here in California and stuff. So I'm kidding. I do like Florida. We live on the Gulf Coast, and I even joined a boat club. I'm still taking the tests to get my certification and stuff, but yeah, I'll be able to jump on a boat and it's beautiful. Pull up on a beach and you get out and the water's warm and clear and there's those dolphins and stuff, and it's really wonderful. We have friends with big boats, and we found a church that we like, and so
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's nice. But anyway, back to your question.
Well, I
I
think
don't
my
think
big
it's a
question
problem.
was is because Rhode Island is one of those strict states that I would not be able to get an Avexia account. I'd have to go through the MD program to be able to,
Well,
uh,
that seems to answer your question right there. Yeah, Rhode
right,
Island is one of those New York type states.
right. So I just wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to, yeah, put my home base as Florida and then ship it to
Hmm.
Rhode Island. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we
Uh,
have snowbird neighbors there.
yeah, yeah, there's a lot of snowbirds in Rhode Island. It gets cold, like painfully cold here. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
I have a second question. Um, I wanted to know the feedback on, say you had a client who was dealing with a lot of gut and sensitivity issues, and they had histamine intolerance, they had glucose sensitivity, they had MRT food sensitivities, and then wanting to incorporate the MT diet. I've asked this before, but I don't know if I've asked it so clearly because I never feel like I got a full answer to which I could apply. Like, what would be your suggestion to approach that? Is there any order or like what would that look like?
Well, do one of the fellas want to take this? I could answer it quite easily, actually, but let's get someone else involved here. And you want to defer empty questions to me, or how do you want to do that?
Dustin, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about it is you were saying that they have a lot of different right sensitivities. So it's kind of like what you're asking, what are they going to do first? How are they going to approach it? What type of things are we going to do first? Is that kind of the question?
Yes.
Um, one of the things about our system, right, is that we are uh, always dealing with clients with a ton of different sensitivities, a lot of issues going on, and we don't always have a first and second way. We oftentimes are just trying to address that overall metabolic chaos that'll then end up removing symptoms one by one. As they fall away, then they of course start to feel better and all of that good stuff. the challenge is, and I understand this, that you end up having like a difficult time implementing some of the protocols because the histamines or the glucose sensitivity or whatever it might be is interfering with you the ability to implement what you want. So that's oftentimes when we just have to take things maybe a little bit slower. We can't do everything as fast as we want to with clients. So I mean, it's I don't think there's any like approach that we could give you on this call because everybody's so individualized and different. But I would just tell you that you do have to take it a little bit slower, and you do want to address the entire picture and not try to chase around this sensitivity or that sensitivity or whatever it might be. So I hope that helps. Maybe Kurt's got something there too.
No, I think that's exactly how I would put it as well. There's so much bio-individuality to it, and that's an important thing to not forget.
Got it.
Just to add, to keep it simple for your client, we're supposed to be the brains of the outfit. You are, as FDNs, you're the person's doing home care and self-care, and they don't like going to doctors and they don't want to take medication, but they need someone that can, like I say, be the brains of the outfit. So we need to study and learn stuff, frankly, that they don't need to know. They just need to know the basics. Otherwise, they get confused. If it's not their profession, like this is your profession. I want you all, I think you all are professional. You want to be professional FDN. That means stay, learn everything, trust it, and then it's okay to question it too and look for more answers. But your client just they're living their life. You need to make it simple. And giving them a list of foods they can eat is such a cool thing to do. Here's the foods you can eat. Don't worry about what you can't eat. All the reds and yellows and all that and this sensitivity and that. Here's the list of foods you can eat. And then unless they're trying to lose weight, eat all you want because it's good for you and it's the right amount of protein, fat, and carbs. That's always the biggest thing for me is depending on your oxidative rate and autonomic dominance, eat like this, and the rest will fall in place. They'll become more aware. It's another really cool thing. Great thing about running the food sensitivity test and an MT test is you get your list of good foods. Eat these, eat them in these ratios. Good. They'll notice that they feel better. They'll lose a couple of pounds. Their foggy thinking will clear up. They'll have more energy. Because you're fueling the body on a cellular level and it just works better all around. They won't, sometimes you can't even put your finger on why you feel better. But symptoms will start to drop off. They'll maybe notice that. Some of them don't even remember having headaches or achy joints or diarrhea. That's why we take a really good record in the beginning. We have them fill out that metabolic chaos scorecard so that you can take it again later and you see, oh, I dropped 100 points off my MC scorecard. Wow. Because they won't remember how shitty they felt, pardon me. And then the same thing occurs with other things in their life, just like they will sort of realize that, wow, eating like this feels better. Don't even remember having some of the problems I had. They'll notice other things in their life that are also deleterious, that don't contribute to well-being, like where they work or people they hang around or things they're consuming in addition to the good food or whatever it might be. Household cleaning products, personal care products, all this stuff. They'll go, wow, that food really made a difference. Gee, what if I got rid of all of the toxic chemicals in my house? What would that be like? Oh, wow, what a concept. So if you keep it real simple, start with the diet, and then if you're if you're onboarding self-aware, conscientious people, which by the way, they're the ones that usually have the money and will spend it, you're going to have happy clients.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
be a professional, number one. That means keeping it simple. Yeah, you got to know everything. Not everything, but be trained. Be trained. Finish the training. Just finish.
Mhm.
Show up. I should play it for you. Right after Hicks, I wonder if you could hear this. See if you could hear this. This is what keeps me going. Hold on a sec. Take me 1 sec. Hold on. Here you go.
Hey, so I came back more fueled and ready than ever to set the world on fire. And today I sold my very first $5,000 coaching program. So I'm super excited. I just wanted to say thank you so much for the guidance and the support. And I'm just really looking forward to this journey and can't wait to start really changing lives. I look forward to talking to you soon and seeing you again, hopefully not too far from now. Have a great night.
Yeah, it feels good when you get messages like that from people. And recent grad went out and got her first, yeah, after the Hicks conference, she got all fired up. So anyway, so just go do that.
That's helpful. Thank you all.
I didn't pay her a dime.
No bribery. No bribery needed. All right. Kathy and then M.
Hello, all, and
Hi, Kathy.
hi, hi, Reed. It was amazing meeting you. I can't believe your humility for all that you have done, and that just really struck me. So thank you, thank you, thank you for everything you've done for us. We are such a force to reckon with, and it showed so much that we are a force to reckon with. And I'm so excited about this journey. Can't wait to be done. I'm in practical, so it'll be soon.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So my question is about probiotics. So we have in the supplements and in the supplements protocol, there are options for selecting a probiotic. So you do have like a probiotic GI, which is your regular probiotic, and then there's also Megaspore, which is a spore biotic, which is biphasic, which means that it remains dormant through the stomach because of the stomach acids, and then it germinates in the right environment, which is your when it gets to your gut. So my question is, if you have, so I looked at both of them. I looked at um, what what each of them, they were all from the Bacillus family, and actually they were almost the same. I think one had five and the other had four plus something else. So my question is, if you have one, and I don't know if it's just smart marketing or if it's for real that Megaspore does goes through, then why would I want to, when it's the same strain, select a probiotic? There's a probiotic GI by Pure Encapsulations right there. They both offer the same, they both provide the same strains, but one is a spore, which goes through the stomach and germinates in the intestine, which means it preserves and still obviously more bioactive than the other, which is just, I mean, am I to assume that it would just get like pulverized by your hydrochloric acid in your stomach? So if I were to choose one with both having the same strains, which would I go for? Would there be a reason why I would choose one over the other?
Well, I'd love to hear what Kurt and Dustin and anyone else has to say about this. I used to fuss with what they call enteric coated probiotics. It means they're supposed to stay kind of safe and coated till they reach your small intestine, or even large intestine. And so enteric coating used to be a big thing, but I don't think so anymore. I'm kind of about diversity. So there's nothing more important in your microbiome than diversity. You start getting down to just uh, major uh, concentrations of, a couple um, different bacillus or whatever it might be. Um, I think that's the mistake. So it's really about, yeah, go ahead, take some probiotics, take your pick, and there's something about having them survive into the gut, but diversity is the key to healthy microbiome, which comes from eating different foods and how you feed them and nurture that garden that's down there,
Mm-hmm.
and how you try to keep the bad stuff to a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
You guys think any differently than that?
So I was in the chat, but it sounded like you were asking if you were taking a probiotic for one species, why you would choose the spore-based or regular broad spectrum. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that I always go by, and spore-based I typically use when there's a lot of terrain that needs to be rebuilt, when it's kind of everything is low systemically, or there's a lot of opportunistic, because you're increasing that survivability and deliverability into the colon and the intestines. Um, Broad spectrum, or where they're kind of alive in the capsule, that's better for when things just need a little bit of balancing or a little bit of nudging, not necessarily reseeding. That's the idea that I take with it. Dustin, what
Mm-hmm.
are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's a real similar approach to you, Kurt, is that the spore based, they microbiome labs, they every one of you, I encourage you when you graduate to go ahead and get a hold of your microbiome labs rep. And there'll be one in your area, but they when they train you on the spore base like megaspore, they train you that basically that bacillus goes in, and one of them in there is called HU58, and it basically, the way I was trained on is that it like creates a little bit of a bomb going off in the gut, and the bomb basically is creating this more hospital environment for our good to survive and the bad to fall away essentially. And so the way that I use spore based because of that training is that I when I have people with high and low good flora. So we'll often run into this. I mean, I've seen it over and over again where people will have an overgrowth of, some of their bacteria and an undergrowth of other bacteria. And so by bringing in this megaspore, you can kind of create that balance. And I think that's kind of what, the Kurt was even talking about, and the way that I use more of like the pure encapsulations probiotic GI that you were talking about in our protocol is when, we see somebody completely like decimated essentially. You'll run into these clients that have a lot of very low bacteria, or they have a lot of missing strains. And those strains that we're looking at that are low are a lot of times, not all of them, but a lot of times they're in those probiotics, right? They're the type of probiotics that need to be repopulated or whatever. Whereas the spore based megaspore is only 5 different strains of bacillus. So the only bacillus on the GI map that we look at is actually in the opportunistic under bacillus species, and our good and bad kind of get lumped in there per se. And again, it's weird talking about good or bad because we know that there's just essentially opportunistic that get crazy inflammatory and problematic when they're overgrown, and then there's of course our flora that creates a more beneficial or healthier environment when they're in good population. So that's the way I look at it. If I want to create a balance between all this high and low, and kind of like what Kurt had said, this metabolic chaos essentially going in the gut, I'll bring in megaspore or a spore-based probiotic. And if I want to bring up an overall low population, then I would bring in, the, overall, probiotic GI.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate that.
All right, great question,
Yep.
Kat. And M, and then Jennifer.
Hi, first Reed, I just want to say that was my experience, what you were talking about. I did my MC scorecard last February, and by the time I got to my R&R, why she's like, why did you put a 4 for bloating? And I could not even remember, you guys. So like really just addressing the diet is huge. I couldn't even remember why I put things on my scorecard. So it's real. Okay, I have two very different questions. So the first one, I want you guys to just check my thinking and help me out on this hormone pathway thing. I'm pretty sure I've asked this before, but I'm a different person today. So we're gonna go again. Okay, so the breakdown, the sex hormones come from cholesterol and B vitamins, and then they all go into pregnenolone, right? And then it goes down the pathway, progesterone to cortisol, and then sideways over to like testosterone and estrogen. So what I'm wondering, if that's right, right? So what I'm wondering is, I think I've heard Elizabeth say, and I wish she was on the call because I don't know if this is right, that sometimes it doesn't always go sideways from progesterone to testosterone and estrogen. I'm wondering what your guys' experience, is that like a viable way that it goes? And what I'm wondering here is like, if somebody's like really high in progesterone, is it possible that's going to filter over to testosterone and estrogen? And or they be really high in progesterone because their cortisol demands are so much from always needing cortisol? Will the body make more progesterone to meet those cortisol demands, or is there another way cortisol comes from? Does it always go through progesterone? Does that make sense?
I'm pretty good with the pathways. And I usually start at the top, and the sideways thing is just for graphic purposes only. And so it's okay, we use it, but it's really happening three-dimensionally, not two-dimensionally, so you got to look at where these things are made. Progesterone is made mostly in the ovaries as a part of the female cycle, in the second half of the cycle. And so it basically should be cranking it out. The corpus luteum becomes, or the follicle becomes the corpus luteum, and instead of estrogen, it's producing progesterone. So there should be a dominance there. How it relates with cortisol is, which is made in the adrenal glands for the most part, is different. And so I'm not sure what the problem is, or where you want to go with that, but there's no such thing as the pregnenolone steal. We used to talk about that. We know the idea of cortisol and DHA. They're made in two different parts of the adrenals. There's no stealing from one part to the other to make more of either one. Aldosterone's the other one that's also made in the adrenals, helps regulate your electrolyte levels and things. And then, of course, in the center is where all your adrenaline comes from, the adrenal medulla. So I would go back, and just look at the diagrams we provided. They're up to date, they're accurate, and just consider it's all going on at once. So I'm not saying that stress, which creates a catabolic imbalance, catabolic anabolic, doesn't affect the ovaries and menstruation, and yeah, all that's happening. and you could go look at the pathways if you want to. But I think using a more organic, three-dimensional approach. Oh, look, you've got stress. First thing to happen is you get catabolic. Your body starts breaking down because of stress. Makes sense. Perfect sense. Okay, what could go? What could diminish after that? Well, the sex hormones for sure. They're intimately intertwined. Same thing with the immune system, believe it or not. It's intimately intertwined with cortisol to DHEA and the idea of catabolic catabolism, things like that. And then don't tell them what happens after that, but it's all a downward spiral that's very three-dimensional and um, Dustin would say even four-dimensional. There's a lot to consider. I know I didn't answer your question very well, but I would go back to the diagrams and see if you can make sense of it and get some help. Get an extended mentoring session or whatever you need to make sure you get that, then that you can keep it simple for your clients. You can't start explaining, well, this hormone's going sideways and it should be going down. You don't do that with your clients. Tell them enough, but unless they're really, really interested, they usually just want to know how to feel better, better life. They want more energy, lose a few pounds, clear thinking, good sex life, whatever it is they want. It and just serve that need and that purpose as the tests we run them and we want to explain them. They just want to hear that this explains why you feel like crap when no one else can figure it out.
Yeah, and this is more for my understanding. I'm a very visual learner, and so I'm having a really hard time actually seeing it in my own head, and
Yeah,
like
and I'm
understanding,
yes.
like what would, because I was thinking, like I literally was thinking about this as I fell asleep last night, you guys. This is what a geek I am. Like I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
progesterone's
you're
in the
big.
ovaries, so how is that affecting cortisol that's in the adrenals? Like I just can't visualize it for myself. I would never attempt to explain this to a client. It's more that I want to know I'm
Yes.
understanding where it could be going sideways, not sideways hormonally, like
Yeah.
where, does that make sense?
Well, I know the context that you just used for saying sideways. Yeah, it goes off kilter, it goes sideways. Um, and um, we could talk about it.
Okay, and I just actually did an extended session with Kurt, but it's not forever. Um, all right, I'll just continue geeking out over this and maybe bring it to my Carol.
I could help you. I want to go over the diagrams with you, and we can't do that here.
Okay. My next question, and I think I've asked this on the MT call last time. Where I'm curious about is reading the tiny bit of the book I've read and realizing that different MT types need different minerals and don't need other minerals. Is the book the only place, because I know that we no longer have access to those supplements, is the book the only place to get this information? Because I find myself really hesitant as I'm going through practicals to want to say, hey, take this mineral, because I don't feel like I understand what fast oxidizers need versus what slow oxidizers need. But I did read something in the book very briefly saying that this is a thing. So can you point me in the direction of where I could learn more about that, or do I just really need to read the whole book?
Yeah, that's funny because I do have some information on that I keep handy. It's at my other desk. I took it to Florida with me. Like I said, back in Cali right now, but the book's a good place. I might have something to make it a little easier. I thought it was provided somewhere in the materials, nutritional requirements of individual metabolic types, and it goes over the minerals a little bit. Um, I would say that balance is the key, and that if you are using the diet check record sheets for your meals, you can also use the same considerations, energy, satiation, sense of well-being, for the supplements, especially if you're taking them with your meals, which unless those supplement specifically says to take on an empty stomach, I think taking them around or with meals is just fine. And then you could notice things. If you're taking too much magnesium, you should know it. Oh, or if you don't have enough, it's harder to notice because you don't know what you're missing. But balance is really important. And so you might go really mild with a person, like, and just do electrolyte mix it. I got them on my freaking desk right here. Just electrolytes are good. Keep your sodium and your magnesium and your potassium and your phosphorus balanced, and should be okay with it if you're eating right. Try to get most of it from your food. And I'm sorry I can't be more clear than that right now. Thank you, Em. Always good questions from you. And we could answer a couple more real quick. You guys, I can stay on if one of you, if you have a hard stop, because people have had their hand up for quite a while. Jennifer and Madison here.
Yep, I think we all have a hard stop, but we do have time for Jennifer and Madison. Madison, you'll end our session today. So Jennifer.
Okay. I think I've been on like the 90-day protocol for a few weeks, and I have H. pylori high. So I'm doing the biocidin liquid. In the meantime, I have developed a yeast infection. So Candida didn't come in the GI map. So is that indicating that I have a Candida problem? Because I know it's hard to find Candida during the GI map or whatever. And do I need to take a different supplement?
Are you on birth control or anything like that?
No, I'm menopausal.
So, could be a temporary change, but if you sort of picked up a yeast infection, something just happened for you guys, the screen change?
I don't know.
Yeah. Somebody's sharing a screen. Oh, now it's gone.
No sharing screens. That's something on a personal health issue. Kurt, what has your policy been on that? Because to really help someone with your question, Jennifer, it's only fair as an FDN practitioner that I would be given all your test results, that I would be giving you complete history, and look at the whole picture. The whole idea behind FDN is we don't treat yeast infections, we treat the whole person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not copping out. I'm trying to tell you that that might be a question better served by, I think you said you already talked to Kurt, or maybe that was them. But yeah, you need a consultation with an FDN practitioner who can look at all the factors ongoing, because we get tempted so easily to, people, I got this, they got a problem, and then they want you to solve that problem, and we don't work that way. It's a tough mental discipline to say, well, I don't treat any particular thing. We treat the whole person. And I know you want to get rid of your symptoms of the yeast. That's not pleasant. And sometimes there is relief care. You could take an fungal, but if you don't do everything else right, it's going to come back and continue to come back. Have you had that before, for instance? Would be a question. So questions like that. How do you know it's a yeast infection? Because you had one before, or is there just some
Like maybe when I was in my 20s. I haven't had one forever.
Okay, so there's some familiarity there, and so that's the kind of investigation I'd want to do before I just told you take this or take that.
Jennifer, have you had your R&R follow-up?
I did, but I haven't had the one consult the anchor call. Can I use that?
So we don't talk about personal health questions in the anchor call. That's more
Okay.
for stuff. But if you wanted to have additional time to talk about personal health, and extended mentoring is available. That way, whoever you choose to book with will, like Reed was saying, have access to your intake documents, to your history, to your labs, because we can't really make any suggestions or anything like that. Just
I'm
hearing.
just curious if ever, you guys have had a lot of clients, if this has come up in your protocols when you're eliminating with the biocide and liquid, because it's getting rid of the biofilm. I'm sure things pop up.
It does, and that's the issue, especially if there's like latent viruses or something like that that was present with it.
Okay. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
And you're right that the GI map isn't the best test for yeast. And there isn't even a really good one. And at the same time, everyone seems to know when they have a yeast infection. So it's kind of weird. And thank you for that. We want to make sure you get better. And now we continue with the protocol, 100%. Dustin, you got anything to add to that, or did he? Okay. Yeah, if you guys got to bail, I'll stick on for just a minute. Just don't end the session on your computer, or make me the organizer.
And Madison, you'll be the final question.
Hey, hi guys.
Hi.
First, I'm really excited because I finally finished the course, so now I'm in practicals as well. So there's just a lot of things coming up. But I actually had a question about biofilm. Speaking of biofilm, when something's in biofilm, like it's not in the cell, so it's not really like expressing itself. Is it basically like frozen in time? Like I guess I'm just trying to conceptualize biofilm and exactly like what that means. Like if a pathogen is in biofilm, it's just kind of frozen there, you know what I mean?
Think of it as a biomass. There is a mass, but it's not. You can't look at it in isolation from everything else going on, like what created it. What bugs are involved, and are they so? Another type of biomass would be if you go up to Alaska and you go crab hunting, they look for biomass. It's just this mass of uh, crabs, and they're all intermingling and having sex, and procreating, and they might even have crab fleas or whatever crabs get, and so there's multiple things going on at one time, and it moves around in a mass. And if the fishermen can find it, hey, they score. They start hauling up crab. But that mass is that's how I kind of look at a biofilm. Is it's a biomass of various bugs, and the bugs that like those bugs, and their juices that they're producing. A lot of them like LPS and other exudants. They're exuding waste and all kinds of things there, and there's elements involved, and probably the best explanation does come from Rachel Fresco, who formed Biocide and created that company's been sold. She's not with them anymore, but man, she was smart, and she understood biomass and quorum sensing. They know when they're next to another bug, and they kind of go, "Oh, hey, hi, bug," and they start doing nasty things together. And so it's a uh, if you have a persistent presentation, infection, it could be that you're not breaking up the biomass, and so we take a little extra biomass breaker, and probably are you guys using like the absorbents, all the time? Are you using um zeolite or something to
Mm.
in all your cases, I would ask?
Like a binder.
Yeah, binder.
Yeah, I see. I I guess I was just confused about like how there's a there's pathogens and other things in there. Do they just like come out at will and affect, the body and like, or are they just kind of like in a little boxed off area in the biofilm? I guess I was just trying to understand.
That's a good question. It's not real important, but it's a thing for geeks to want to know, and it's going to move around and it's going to grow if you don't do something about it. Your body has so much resistance to these kind of things and the natural ability to fight them off, but sometimes, well, that's what dis-ease is. The body's lost homeostasis. There's not enough good flora in the gut to combat the bad flora. These various species start humping each other, that's kind of what forms.
Yeah.
And uh, it would create a pretty toxic environment for that person. So yeah, we have to help that person self-treat
It's just like
biofilms
just a
and
big mass,
yeah,
basically.
and do the binders.
Yeah. Okay, and then I have one more quick question. I was wondering about the oxidative rate. So, and there's the metabolic typing oxidative rate, but then I think you mentioned in the course that like let's say HTMA has an oxidative rate, but that's like a different kind of oxidative rate. Can you explain the differences between like why they're different, why the metabolic typing would be a more reliable oxidative rate?
The objective way of testing oxidative rate can't be done through hair, is what I understand. So there's a way, and by the way, I first learned metabolic typing from a guy named Dr. Harold Crystal, and his book, I'd love to show it to you if I don't see it really handy on my bookcase over here, but Dr. Harold, Harold Crystal, Krystal, Dr. Harold Crystal, his book on he calls it personal metabolic typing. I learned this objective way of figuring this stuff out, and it's a pain in the ass. And Bill Wolcott, who's run them both side by side for a few decades, said that the questionnaire is better than the objective way, and which has nothing to do with the HTMA, which, from my understanding, is you can't get there from here. There's some correlations, perhaps, but I wouldn't count on it. And that's not to say, I have to say this, which is going to be even more confusing, that we have an HTMA course that we refer people to. And it was put together by an FDN who started using it heavily in her practice and says she gets good results. So I find results pretty hard to argue with. So I don't argue with that point. I just don't use it. I use the methods that I know worked for me. So you can't rule out that, well, a different method worked good for someone else, but I can only tell you what I did in the office that worked really well. Outperformed everything else. The patients coming in that office over 10 years, there was thousands of them who did better on our protocol, basically my FDN protocol. I only ever developed FDN for our patients in the clinic. I love the clinic. I love working there. I pretty soon had no time to run that office anymore and ended up moving out, realizing I didn't need an office. I could just do everything remotely. But yeah, for the whole time I was there, I just wanted our patients to be happy and learn to outperform everything else they were doing, alternative or conventional. Obviously, conventional or traditional or standard medicine. No one coming in our office wanted any more of that. They're like, that doesn't work for me. Drugs only make the problem worse, or whatever they said. They wanted the alternative, which was perfect for me because I wasn't allowed to do standard medicine. Can't diagnose and write a prescription and that crap they didn't want. So I had to find out, well, what are the healing opportunities? And try to find ways for them to capitalize on that data, look, your hormones are out of balance. Your immune system's overactive. You've got bugs. You've got different things going on. How do we capitalize on that data? Eat right, go to bed on time, exercise, reduce stress in every way it can be identified, known and unknown, and non-existent stressors. There's such a thing as non-existent stressors. And take your supplements. And that was just outperforming other methods, especially standard medicine. And so, but could other methods work? I'm way open to that.
It's just like a tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, we have someone, Brandon Mollet, who is a clinical advisor. He's a metabolic typing guy all the way. All the way. I see the orders coming through for metabolic typing. It just happens to be in one of my mailboxes. Every day people are ordering the metabolic typing test. I see his name all the time. Brendan Millay, Brendan Millay, Brendan Millay. At the same time, he loves the HTMA,
Mm-hmm.
but it's
I'm
not,
just wondering,
that's not how he's getting oxidative rate. He's getting that from the MT test.
do you know, like, I guess I just don't understand how they're measured or the difference in measuring. Or maybe you don't know that. I don't know. I don't think it matters.
But I do, and the oxidative rate, and then I'll have to let my team go here, Madison, everybody. But um, the oxidative rate on the metabolic typing quiz is determined by three things. One is the physical attributes, even how you look and things like that. Are your eyes dilated? Are they not dilated? You can tell some of these things, including autonomic dominance, by the way. Dietary traits, so physical traits, dietary traits, such as what's it like when you eat meat? Like what's it like if you don't get meat, and different things. And then the third one is your, believe it or not, psychological aspects and questions. Do you have a bad temper, or are you a pretty mellow fellow, type of thing? So there's three ways to determine both oxidative rate and autonomic dominance.
Mhm.
And it's accurate. I've never tested differently in all the years, over 2 decades of running that test. And Bill has me do it more often than I want to. But I'm always a parasympathetic dominant fast oxidizer. Always, always, always. So that's my genetic type. That's burned into the bones. You can't change that. Wouldn't want to. And so from that experience and knowing things like that, and what using the diet check record sheets, or at least the criteria, I don't actually fill out sheets anymore, but I know if I have energy or if I'm craving. If I'm craving, oh shit, I didn't eat right 2 hours ago. Why? How do I know? Well, because you're craving, and you shouldn't have cravings. You should be able to go from pit stop to pit stop, with lots of energy and satiation, and even a sense of well-being. Although that's an elusive target, it just means you're not pissed off for no reason. If I'm
Yeah.
pissed off,
All right, guys. Well, this is not Jenna tuning in, and I am off video just because I had to turn some stuff off for the day. I just wanted to thank you for being a part of our trainee roundtable. This was great. Glad to have you guys. Tomorrow, unfortunately, due to some things that were happening in her personal life, we will not have the case study with Jen Sino, but we did fill the slot with a pre-recorded case study. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on that. That'll be awesome. Thursday, we have a 6-figure FDN session with Sarah Ball, as well as another case study. So if you like the one today with Ryan, we have one with Jennifer Woodward on peptides and perimenopause on Thursday. And then we also have a case study on Friday with Bria Gad. And I'm not sure exactly what that's on yet, but her business is called The Period Whisperer. So I can take a wild guess. Looking forward to seeing you guys there. And thank you so much for another great day in our Black Friday events. Remember, you have until November 1st to get the sale. It started on November 10th, and it's going till December 1st. $2,000 off the FDN certification, largest sale ever. FDNtraining.com/BF25. That's FDNtraining.com/BF25. Thank you, guys.